My ex-wife loves to say that a family is an anchor, and you can't sail to paradise if you're dragging dead weight across the ocean floor. It was her favorite metaphor. She used it when she missed her friends' parties, when she complained about our budget, and most frequently, when she looked down her nose at our newborn son and me. For the 5 years of our marriage, Jessica Vance called me a dreamer. She called me a failure. She called me the chain holding her back from the life she deserved. She told anyone who would listen that I lacked the killer instinct required to provide her with the luxury she felt was her birthright. Today, at 9 o'clock in the morning, in this boardroom with its panoramic view of the Silicon Valley skyline, the dead weight just bought the entire ocean. And the first order of business is very simple. Cut the line and let the driftwood sink. Jessica is standing in front of me right now. Her hands are trembling on the polished glass table, vibrating so hard they're making a faint tapping sound against the surface. Her face has gone from the red of feigned maternal outrage to the ghostly white of absolute, terrifying understanding. Next to her, her shark of a lawyer, Mr. Sterling, is sweating. But let's be clear, Jessica's tears aren't tears of sadness. These aren't tears of regret over a lost family. These are tears of financial panic. She just realized that the man she abandoned 10 years ago, the man whose parental rights she voluntarily waived to protect her freedom, is the same man who now owns the future she is desperately trying to sue her way back into. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To fully understand the magnitude of the destruction happening in this room, you need to know the complete story. You need to understand the decade of silence. You need to understand how a man they called a burden silently built an empire with a baby on his hip, purely to buy his tormentor's world and then watch her crumble from a front row seat. My name is David Thorne. 10 years ago, I was married to Jessica Vance, a woman whose ambition was only exceeded by her vanity. To the outside world, Jessica was a rising star in the fashion PR world. She was polished. She was charismatic. But Jessica didn't want a partner. Jessica wanted a sponsor. She wanted her name on the donor walls of museums. She wanted vacations in St. Tropez and a closet that would make Vogue editors envious. I met Jessica in New York. She was coordinating events. I was a junior software engineer working on back-end logistics. She was beautiful in that devastating way that makes rational men make irrational decisions. She had an energy that pulled you in, a promise of a life in high definition. We started dating in the winter. We got married a year later. I thought I was marrying a soulmate. I didn't realize I was merely an accessory in her lifestyle photo shoot. The humiliation started when our son, Leo, was born. We were in the hospital, in a shared room because our insurance didn't cover a private suite. It wasn't the Ritz, but we had a healthy baby boy. It was honest. On the second day, Jessica received a call from her boss. I was holding Leo, rocking him to sleep, but I could hear her voice through the curtain. "Yes, I'll be back next week," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "No, the baby won't be an issue. Mark is available." "Yes, I know. It's not ideal. But I won't let it affect the campaign." That last line, "I won't let it affect the campaign," sounded less like professional dedication and more like resentment. When she hung up and opened the curtain, she looked at Leo not with love, but with calculation. Now, looking back with the clarity of 10 years, I know exactly what it was. He was a liability. "My firm wants me to lead the Paris account," she said, not asking, but telling. "They say I need to be mobile. They say you need to step up, David. You're barely making ends meet with that startup code. It could be good for us. You stay home." I go. I wanted to say no. I wanted to build my own career, step by step. I had offers from established tech giants. But Jessica insisted. She used the word sacrifice like a weapon. So I accepted. I accepted because I thought marriage was about supporting each other's dreams. I didn't know yet that for Jessica, support meant servitude. The day she left set the tone for the next decade. Jessica packed her Louis Vuitton bags. She didn't hug me. She didn't kiss Leo goodbye. She simply checked her reflection in the hallway mirror and said, "You're going to keep the apartment, the debt, the baby. Your job is not to call me with problems. Your job is not to guilt-trip me. Your job is to handle the mess so I can handle the success." "Understood." "Understood," I replied. For the next 10 years, I became invisible. I worked in that cramped apartment. I changed diapers with one hand and typed code with the other. And I discovered something that would become my greatest weapon. Jessica Vance was a shallow narcissist playing with status she hadn't earned. Her career was smoke and mirrors. She burned bridges. She spent money she didn't have. She prioritized appearances over substance. But I said nothing. I kept my head down. I wore the spit-up stained t-shirts. I drove the beat-up minivan she laughed at. And in my free time, late at night when Leo was finally asleep, I did something Jessica never knew. I founded my own AI logistics company. I didn't use family money. We didn't have any. I used my sleep deprivation. I lived well below my means. I built an algorithm that optimized shipping routes for global freighters. I pitched to investors who looked past my tired eyes and saw the genius in the code. I secured contracts with shipping giants while Jessica was partying in Ibiza. And when those contracts multiplied, I didn't buy a Ferrari. I reinvested. Compound interest and machine learning are the twin engines of the future, and I was their mechanic. In 5 years, my personal net worth exceeded $20 million. In 8 years, I was close to $100 million. By the 10-year mark, through a complex web of holdings and intellectual property rights, my company, Ether Systems, was valued at over $2 billion. And nobody knew. Jessica thought I was still doing freelance IT work for peanuts. She thought I was safe and stuck. The rare FaceTime calls were the price I paid for my secrecy. Once a month, she would deign to call Leo. She would sit in a hotel room, drinking champagne that cost more than my rent, telling stories about the celebrities she met. And then, inevitably, she'd turn to me. "So, David," she'd say, a smirk playing on her lips, "how's the babysitting going? Still coding websites for dog walkers?" She would chuckle. Her new boyfriends in the background would laugh. Not a nervous laugh, but a genuine laugh. They thought it was funny. They thought I was the loser left holding the bag. "Jessica, Leo misses you," I'd say, trying to bridge the gap for my son. "Don't start," she would snap, checking her makeup in the camera. "Not everyone can be a star, David. The world needs audience members too. Just be glad I send the occasional check to cover his shoes." I'd nod. I'd smile. I'd swallow the rage. Because I was learning the most dangerous lesson of all: arrogant people are careless. While Jessica was busy bragging about her freedom, I was documenting her abandonment. I saved every email where she refused visitation, every text where she called Leo a burden, every missed birthday. I built a file in my mind and on encrypted servers. I wasn't just a single dad. I was the architect of her reckoning. The turning point came 6 months ago. Jessica showed up unannounced. She was practically vibrating with excitement, her face flushed with the adrenaline of a predator who smells blood. "I'm back," Jessica announced, standing in the doorway of the modest house I still kept as a decoy. "My career in Europe is transitioning. I've decided to settle down here. I want to be a family again. I want full custody of Leo. I'm going to take him to LA. I have a potential reality show deal, and they love the reunited mother angle." Leo, who was listening from the stairs, looked terrified. He barely knew this woman. "I heard," I said calmly. "What are the terms, Jessica?" Jessica waved her hand dismissively. "Details. Boring legal details. You wouldn't understand the media landscape, David." "Humor me," I pressed. "You haven't seen him in 3 years. You've missed 10 birthdays. Why now?" Jessica slammed her purse down. "Why do you care? You're broke. You're tired. Look at you. You're holding him back. I can give him the world. Don't ruin his chance at fame with your selfishness." Leo ran back upstairs. "God, David, why do you always have to be so small? This is amazing news." I nodded. I apologized. And then I went to my study, locked the door, and made a phone call. The call was to Sarah Jenkins. Sarah was a ferocious family law attorney and corporate shark I'd hired as my general counsel 3 years earlier. She was brilliant, ruthless, and possessed a moral compass that aligned perfectly with mine. She believed in protecting children above all else. She was the only person in the world who knew both sides of David Thorne. "Sarah," I said, "I need you to prepare a trap. Jessica is back. She wants custody. She thinks I'm destitute." There was a pause on the line. "Sarah is too smart to ask dumb questions. What's the play?" "She wants to take him to LA for a show." A longer pause. "She wants to monetize the son she abandoned." "Yes." "Nuclear option." "Total annihilation," I corrected. "She's about to do something catastrophically stupid. I want to be the one holding the gavel." "And the boy?" Sarah asked gently. "My son thinks his mother is a stranger. Let's see how she feels when the stranger owns the network she's trying to pitch to." "I'll have the paperwork ready in 48 hours, Sarah said. "And David?" "It's about time." Over the next 3 months, I watched from the shadows as Jessica filed motion after motion. She sued for full custody. She sued for retroactive, emotional support. She claimed I had alienated the child. The offer we made her was a trap wrapped in gold. I told her I would agree to a mediation session to discuss custody and a final financial settlement. I told her I had come into a small inheritance, about $50,000, and I was willing to give it all to her if she signed a specific document. The document was a termination of parental rights and financial separation agreement. It stated that in exchange for the lump sum, she voluntarily terminated all parental rights to Leo, waived all future claims to child support, and, crucially, waived any claim to my current or future intellectual property and business assets, which she listed in the addendum as worthless computer code. Jessica, in her supreme arrogance, signed it. She wanted the quick cash for her move to LA. She was convinced my code was worthless. She had been underestimating me for so long she had started to believe her own insults. I knew the truth. I had the valuation reports. My worthless code was Ether Systems, currently pending a public IPO valued at $2.4 billion. She was trading a $1 billion lottery ticket for 50 grand, and she was doing it with a smile. Jessica signed the deal on a Tuesday. That weekend, she posted on Instagram about her new beginning and cutting toxic ties. She was radiant. Yesterday, the news broke. Ether Systems announced its IPO. My face was on the cover of Forbes. The secret billionaire single dad. Jessica saw it. She read the article. She saw the valuation. She realized that the worthless code she waived rights to was the engine of a global empire. She showed up at my corporate headquarters this morning. She demanded a meeting. She brought a lawyer, claiming she was coerced, claiming we were still married in spirit, claiming half of Ether Systems belonged to her. I arrived at the building 2 hours early. I reviewed the signed documents one last time. The smoking gun, her signature, notarized, waiving everything for the price of a used car. At 8:55 a.m., Sarah arrived. I watched on the security monitors as Jessica greeted her in the lobby, trying to act confident but looking like a cornered animal. Sarah led her to the conference room like she was walking to the gallows. I waited until exactly 9:05 a.m. Then I stood up from my desk in the CEO suite, straightened my tie, picked up my black folder, and walked to the elevator. When the elevator doors opened, Jessica was standing in the hallway, arguing with a receptionist. She saw me and froze. But she didn't see the man in the stained T-shirt. She saw the man in the $5,000 bespoke suit. "David," she whispered, Is this yours?" "I have a meeting," I said, walking past her. She grabbed my arm. "David, stop. We need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. The papers I signed. I didn't know." "I won't embarrass you in the hallway, Jessica," I said, gently removing her hand from my sleeve. "I'm going to educate you inside." I pushed open the heavy double doors. The conversation inside stopped instantly. Her lawyer was sitting at the table, looking nervous. Sarah was calm, smiling like a shark. "What is this?" Jessica stammered, following me in. "David, tell them. Tell them we're partners. We built this together." I didn't answer. I walked calmly to the head of the long table. "Did you hear me?" Jessica yelled, panic rising in her voice. "I was there when you started. I supported you." "Sit down, Jessica," Sarah said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it had the weight of finality. Jessica froze. She looked at Sarah. Then at me. Excuse me. I am his wife. Well, ex-wife. But I have rights. You have no rights, Sarah said, her eyes locking onto mine. You are a stranger to this company. And to his son. The silence that sucked the air out of the room was heavy enough to crush bones. Jessica looked at the view. Then at me. That's not fair, Jessica whispered. David. I'm Leo's mother. I placed my folder on the table. You're Leo's biological donor, Jessica. A mother is someone who stays. Unlike you, who spent 10 years running away. This is insane, Jessica whispered, looking at her lawyer. Do something. The only insanity here, I said, opening the folder, is your entitlement. I slid the documents across the table. Jessica, meet the document you signed 3 days ago. The one where you valued my life's work at zero. The one where you sold your son for $50,000. Her lawyer snatched the papers. He scanned them. His face went pale. He looked at Jessica. Did you sign this? Is this your signature? Jessica didn't answer. She collapsed into her chair. No, I said, pointing to the clause on the second page. Let's talk about the irrevocable waiver clause. Since you voluntarily terminated your rights and financial claims in exchange for a cash settlement, you have no standing here. None. Zero. I didn't know it was worth billions, she screamed. We know, Sarah said. That's why it's called a gamble. You bet against David. You lost. I looked Jessica in the eye. My company. My assets. My son. They belong to me now. Completely protected from you. Jessica screamed. It was a raw, primal sound of greed denied. You can't do that. That's my money. I suffered too. She rushed at me. David, please. I'll come back. I'll be a good mom. I'll sign a post-nup. Just let me in. I held up a hand. Stop. Think. Jessica. The day you left. She froze. The day you packed your bags, I said softly. You told me Leo was an anchor. You told me I was dead weight. You wanted to fly. Congratulations. You're free. My assets, which now include the trust fund you just tried to steal from your own son, are completely out of your reach. No, she whimpered. No, please. David, I love you. You don't love me, I said, and for the first time, I felt no pain, only clarity. You love the lifestyle you think I can provide. You left when the account was empty. You came back when it was full. That's not love, Jessica. That's prostitution. And I'm not buying. I turned to Sarah. Escort them out. Ensure security has her photo. She is not to come within 500 feet of this building or my son's school. Done, Sarah said. I looked at Jessica one last time. She was weeping silently, her head in her hands. The anchor had been cut loose. Security is waiting outside, I told them. You have 5 minutes to leave the premises before I press charges for trespassing and harassment. I suggest you start walking. I walked out of that boardroom without looking back. I took the elevator down to the lobby, walked out into the bright morning sun, and took a deep breath. I pulled out my phone and called my son. Hey, Dad. Leo answered. Hey, buddy, I said. I'm coming home early. Want to grab pizza? Yeah. Behind me, in the tower of glass and steel, the past was burning. And for the first time in 10 years, the deadweight was gone. I wasn't just floating. I was flying.